Thank you for the floor. His Excellency Mr. John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, Their Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Honorable Distinguished Representatives of international and regional organizations, ladies, warm welcome extended to us and for the organization of this important conference, which has placed reparatory justice at the heart of our continental political agenda. The unity of the exceptional gravity of the trafficking of enslaved Africans and of the racialized chattel enslavement of Africans. It is a recognition owed to historical truth, to collective memory, and above all, to the dignity of the vote on this resolution is also instructive. Movement of conscience. At the same time, the abstentions and the votes against it remind us of the acknowledgement of the facts. It is the acceptance of responsibility for their consequences. This is why our efforts must be precise. We are not asking the world to reopen history in order to divide humanity. We are asking the world to confront history in order to restore humanity. The international community has, in other contexts, understood that crimes of exceptional gravity require exceptional responses. Truth, accountability, guarantees of non-repetition, and reparative measures. The question before us, therefore, is not whether reparatory justice is possible. The question is whether the dignity of African peoples and people of African descent will be treated with the same seriousness, the same universality, and the same moral courage. Because human dignity is not selective. It is universal, indivisible, inherent, and inalienable. And justice cannot depend on whose suffering the world finds easier to recognize or more convenient to repair. Recognition, therefore, cannot be an end in itself. Memory without justice remains an open wound. Justice without action remains an unfulfilled promise. The time has now come to transform historical recognition into a genuine program of action, one capable of addressing the structural imbalances inherited from the past and of promoting fair, equitable, and sustainable reparations for the benefit of Africa and people of African descent. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue holds particular significance for the Democratic Republic of the Congo. For our country, the history of slavery is not confined to one coast, one route, or one century. The peoples who have inhabited the territories that today form the Democratic Republic of the Congo were affected from more than one direction and across more than one historical period. To the west, the Kingdom of Congo and the wider West Central African region were drawn early into the transatlantic slave trade. To the east, the tragedy took another form. In the 19th century, slave and ivory caravans linked to the Indian Ocean penetrated deep into eastern Congo, particularly in the regions of West Lake Tanganyika and along the upper Congo River. At a time when abolition was already being proclaimed elsewhere, communities in our region continued to face raiding, forced labor, and displacement. This prolonged and multi-directional predation left consequences that cannot be measured only in numbers. They're measured in families separated, communities uprooted, societies destabilized, institutions weakened, and generations deprived of the right to shape their own destiny. Nor did this history of extraction end with slavery. It continued through colonialism, and it survives today in certain forms of economic predation. For too long, Africa's wealth has contributed to the prosperity of others without equitably benefiting African peoples themselves. The Democratic Republic of the Congo knows this reality intimately. Our country possesses strategic resources that are essential to the global energy transition. Yet millions of Congolese continue to suffer the tragic consequences of recurring armed conflict with significant loss of life, massive population displacement, and persistent humanitarian crisis. For us, therefore, reparatory justice is not solely about the past. It is about building a more just future. It is about the right of African peoples to benefit fully from their resources, their heritage, and their human potential. But it is also about our ability to confront the injustices of the present with the same clarity that we demand for injustices of the past. We cannot denounce the violence once inflicted upon Africans while accepting that Africans inflict violence upon other Africans today. We cannot speak of reparatory justice while remaining silent when sovereignty is violated, communities are uprooted, civilians are killed, and the wealth of a nation exploited under the cover of armed aggression. Ladies and gentlemen, it is in this spirit that the Democratic Republic of the Congo fully supports the implementation of Resolution A/Res/8250. But implementation must reflect the full meaning of reparatory justice. Reparations cannot be reduced to a financial question alone. They must also address the deeper structures through which historical injustice continues to produce inequality, exclusion, and dependency. This requires a comprehensive approach. The restitution of African cultural heritage, the preservation of sites of memory, the transfer of knowledge and technology, equitable access to development financing, the strengthening of institutional capacities, and the promotion of education, research, and historical memory. More than ever, Africa must speak with one voice. The pursuit of reparatory justice is directed neither against any people nor against any nation. It is not an exercise in revenge, nor an undertaking of division. It is a demand for justice, truth, dignity, and shared development. In this regard, the DRC supports the initiation of discussions on the establishment of an international fund for reparatory justice under the auspices of the United Nations and in close coordination with the African Union. Such a mechanism could help finance priority projects in education, health, infrastructure, economic development, institutional capacity building, and others. The Democratic Republic of the Congo also supports the establishment of a regular monitoring mechanism for the implementation of the resolution, including through periodic reports by the Secretary General of the United Nations in coordination with the African Union and relevant institutions of the United Nations system. Ladies and gentlemen, the measure of this conference will not be the strength of our words, but the courage of our follow-through. Let this moment mark not only the recognition of a historical wrong, but the beginning of a new international compact rooted in truth, dignity, and responsibility. Let it affirm that memory must lead to reparation, that reparation must support development, and that development must serve justice, peace, and shared prosperity. For Africa, for its diaspora, for our future generation, let us act with the seriousness that history demands and with the conviction that justice delayed must no longer mean justice denied. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Republic of Congo.